How to see the world like an artist. Every artist gets asked the question, where do you get your ideas? The honest artist's answer is, I steal them. First, you figure out what's worth stealing. Then you move on to the next thing. That's pretty much all there is to it. When you look at the world this way, you stop worrying about what's right or wrong. There are only things worth stealing and things not worth stealing. Everything is up for grabs. If you don't find something worth stealing today, maybe you'll see its potential tomorrow, or in a month, or in a year. The only art I'll ever study is stuff that I can steal from. David Bowie. Nothing is original. Writer Jonathan Lethem has said that when people call something original, 9 times out of 10 they don't know the references involved. What a good artist understands is that nothing comes from nowhere. All creative work builds on what came before. Nothing is completely original. It's even in the Bible. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9. Some people find this depressing, but I find it hopeful. As the French writer André Gide said, everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again. Once we free ourselves from the burden of trying to be completely original, we can stop trying to make things from scratch and instead embrace our influences. What is originality? Undetected plagiarism. William Ralph Inga. The genealogy of ideas. All new ideas are a mashup of one or more previous ideas. Here's a trick they teach you in art school. Draw 2 parallel lines on a piece of paper. How many lines are there? There's the first line, the second line, and a third line created by the negative space between them. See, 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. A good analogy is genetics. You have a mother and a father. You inherit traits from both, but you are more than the sum of their parts. You're also a product of all your ancestors. Just like you have a family tree, you have a family tree of ideas. You can't choose your family, but you can choose your teachers, your friends, the music you listen to, the books you read, and the movies you watch. You are a mix of what you let into your life. You are the sum of your influences. We are shaped and fashioned by what we love. Goethe. We were kids without parents. So we found our parents in wax. And on the streets and in history. We chose the ancestors who would inspire the world we built. Jay-Z. Garbage in, garbage out. The artist is a collector, not a hoarder. There's a difference. Hoarders collect indiscriminately, artists do it selectively. They only collect things they truly love. There's an economic theory that says if you add up the incomes of your 5 closest friends and average them, the result will be very close to your own income. I think the same thing happens with ideas. You're only as good as the things you surround yourself with. My mom used to tell me, garbage in, garbage out. It used to drive me crazy, but now I understand what she meant. Your job is to collect good ideas. The more good ideas you collect, the wider the spectrum you'll have to be influenced by. Steal from anywhere that resonates with inspiration or sparks your imagination. Devour old films, new films, music, books, paintings, photographs, poems, dreams, random conversations, architecture, bridges, street signs, trees, clouds, light and shadows. Steal only from the things that speak directly to your soul. If you do this, your work and your theft will be authentic. Jim Jarmusch. Climb your own family tree. Marcel Duchamp said, I don't believe in art. I believe in artists. This is an excellent method of study. If you try to swallow the entire history of your discipline in one sitting, you'll choke. Instead, start with someone who truly inspires you, a writer, artist, activist, role model. Learn everything there is to know about that person. Then find 3 people who inspired your subject and learn everything about them. Repeat this as many times as you can. Climb that tree as high as you can. Once you've built your tree, it's time for your own branch to grow. Seeing yourself as part of a creative lineage will help you feel less alone when you start creating your own work. In my studio, I have photos of my favorite artists. They're like friendly ghosts. I can almost feel them giving me a little creative nudge when I'm hunched over my desk. The great thing about dead or distant masters is that they can't refuse you as an apprentice. You can learn whatever you want from them. They left their work plans in their work. Be your own school. School is one thing. Education is another. They don't always overlap. Whether you're in school or not, it will always be your job to keep educating yourself. You must be curious about the world you live in. Look for things. Chase every reference. Go further than anyone else. That's how you get ahead. Google everything. I mean, everything. Use Google to find your dreams, your problems. Don't ask a question before you Google it. It's simple. You'll either find the answer or come up with better questions. Read all the time. Go to the library. There's a special magic when you surround yourself with books. Get lost in the stacks. In or out of school, I was always studying. RCA. Read biographies. It's not about the book you start with, but the book you end up with. Collect books, even if you don't plan to read them right away. Filmmaker John Waters said, "Nothing is more important than an unread library." Don't worry about research. Start by searching. Save your thefts for later. Wherever you go, always carry a notebook and a pen. Get used to pulling it out and writing down all your thoughts and observations. Copy your favorite passages from books. Document overheard conversations. Doodle while you're on the phone. Do whatever it takes, but always keep paper handy. Artist David Hockney had all his jackets altered so a notebook would fit in the inner pockets. Musician Arthur Russell liked shirts with 2 front pockets to stuff with clippings and compositions. Keep a theft file. It's literally a file where you store and catalog all the thoughts you've stolen. It can be digital or analog, it doesn't matter as long as it works. You can keep a scrapbook to cut and paste things into, or take photos of things that catch your eye. See something worth stealing? Run and put it in your theft file. Need a bit of inspiration? Run and check your theft file. Journalists call this their morgue file, which I like even more. The morgue file is where you store dead things that might be useful later. It's better to take what doesn't belong to you than to let it lie around neglected. Mark Twain. Make things. Know yourself. If I had waited to know who I was or what I was before starting to be creative, I'd still be sitting there trying to figure myself out instead of making things. In my experience, creating things and doing our work helps us find ourselves. You're ready. Start creating. Maybe you're afraid to start. That's natural. There's something very real that shows up in educated people, imposter syndrome. The clinical definition is a psychological phenomenon in which the individual cannot internalize their accomplishments. That means you feel ridiculous, you leave things unfinished, you have no idea what you're doing. Guess what? We're all the same. Ask any creative person and they'll tell you the truth. They don't know where the good stuff comes from. It just shows up, and they do the work. Every day. Fake it till you make it. Have you ever heard of dramaturgy? It's a fancy term that William Shakespeare used over 400 years ago in As You Like It. All the world's a stage. And all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts. Another way to say it? Fake it till you make it. I love this phrase. There are 2 ways to read it. Pretend to be something you're not until you become it. Fake it until you're successful, until everyone sees you the way you want to be seen. Pretend to do something until you actually do something. I like both readings. You should dress for the job you want, not the job you have, and you should start doing the work you want to do. Another thing I love. Patti Smith's children's book, Just Kids. It's the story of 2 friends who wanted to be artists and moved to New York. Do you know how they learned to be artists? You start out a phony and become real. Glenn O'Brien. They pretended to be artists. In my favorite scene, the one that gives the book its title, Patti Smith and her friend, photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, pretend to be bohemian gypsies and go to Washington Square Park, where everyone is having a good time. A pair of tourists stare at them, and the woman says to her husband, "Take their picture. I think they're famous artists." "Oh, please," her husband replies. "They're just kids." The point is, the world is a stage. Creative work is a kind of theater. The stage is your studio, your desk, your workstation. The costume is your outfit, your paint pants, your tailored suit, even that silly hat that helps you think. The props are your materials, your tools, your medium. The script is time. An hour here, another hour there, the time for things to happen. Fake it till you make it. Start copying. No one is born with style or a voice. You don't come out of the womb knowing who you are. Early in life, we learn by imitating our heroes. We learn by copying. We're talking about practice, not plagiarism. Plagiarism is taking credit for someone else's work. Copying is reverse engineering. It's like a mechanic taking apart a car to see how it works. Start copying what you love. Copy, 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 copy. When you're done copying, you'll find yourself. Yohji Yamamoto. We learn to write by copying the alphabet. Musicians learn to play by practicing scales. Painters learn to paint by copying masterpieces. Remember, even the Beatles started as a cover band. Paul McCartney said, "I was emulating Buddy Holly, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis." We all were. McCartney and John Lennon became one of the greatest songwriting teams in history, but as McCartney recalls, they only started writing songs as a way to keep other bands from playing the set we had planned. As Salvador Dali said, those who do not want to imitate anything produce nothing. First, you must know who to copy. You copy your heroes, the people you love, who inspire you, the people you want to be like. Composer Nick Lowe says, you start by rewriting your hero's catalog. And you don't just steal from one hero, you steal from all of them. Writer Wilson Misner said that if you steal from one author, it's plagiarism, but if you steal from many, it's research. Cartoonist Gary Panter once said, if you're influenced by one person, everyone will say you're their successor. If you steal from 100 people, everyone will say you're original. What to copy is harder. Don't just steal a style, steal the thinking behind the style. You don't want to look like your heroes, you want to see like them. When we copy our heroes and their style, it's because we're getting a glimpse into their minds. That's what you really want, to internalize their way of seeing the world. If you only imitate the surface of someone else's work without understanding where it comes from, your work will be nothing more than a bad imitation. Imitation is not flattery. We want you to take something. First, we want you to steal, because you don't know how to steal yet. You'll take what we give you and put it into your own voice, and that's how you'll find your voice. And that's how you start. And then, one day, we'll steal from you. Francis Ford Coppola. At some point you'll have to stop imitating your heroes and start emulating them. Imitation means copying. Emulation goes one step further and makes something your own. There's not a single move that's new. Basketball player Kobe Bryant admitted that none of his moves were new. All his dribbles were stolen from videos of his heroes playing. But when Bryant started stealing those moves, he realized he couldn't do them the same way because he didn't have the same body type. He had to adapt each move to make it his own. Conan O'Brien has talked about how comedians try to emulate their heroes, fall short, and end up doing something original. Johnny Carson tried to be like Jack Benny and became Johnny Carson. David Letterman tried to copy Johnny Carson and became David Letterman. And Conan O'Brien wanted to be David Letterman, but ended up being Conan O'Brien. In his own words, it is a failure to become your ideal, because that ideal ultimately defines and makes you unique. Thank goodness. I've stolen great moves from the best players. I just try to make the guys who came before me proud, because I've learned so much from them. It's all in the name of the game. It's something much bigger than me. Kobe Bryant. A wonderful flaw of human beings is that we're incapable of making perfect copies. The moment we fail at copying our heroes is when we discover what makes us unique. That's how we evolve. So copy your heroes. Examine where you fall short. What's there that makes you different? That's what you need to amplify and turn into your own work. In the end, simply imitating your heroes isn't flattering. Transforming their work into something of your own is the best way to honor them, by giving the world something only you can give. Write what you like. I saw Jurassic Park when I turned 10. I loved it. From the moment I left the theater, I was desperate for a sequel. So the next day I sat down at our old PC and wrote one. In my script, the son of the park's officer, eaten by velociraptors, returns to the island with the granddaughter of the park's owner. One wants to destroy what's left of the park, the other wants to save it. Obviously, they fall in love and the adventures continue. At the time I didn't know it, but I was writing what I now know is called fan fiction. Fictional stories based on characters that already exist. My 10-year-old self saved the text on the computer, and a few years later the sequel was finally released. The Lost World, Jurassic Park was terrible. Sequels always suck compared to the story you created in your head. The question every young writer eventually asks is, what should I write? And the common answer is, write what you know. This advice always leads to terrible stories where nothing interesting happens. What interests me most about making music is creating something that doesn't exist but that I'd like to hear. The music I wanted to hear didn't exist yet, so it was necessary to gather things that suggested something new. Brian Eno. We make art because we love art. We're drawn to certain kinds of work because they inspire us. All fiction is, in fact, fan fiction. The best advice isn't to write what you know, but what you like. Write the kind of story you love, the story you want to read. The same principle applies to your life and your career. When you don't know what your next step should be, just ask yourself, what would make a better story? Bradford Cox of the band Deer Hunter says that when he was young, there was no internet, so he had to wait for the official release to hear new albums by his favorite bands. He had a game. He'd sit down and record a fake version of the album, the one he really wanted to hear. Then, when the real album came out, he'd compare the songs he wrote with the real ones. And you know what? Eventually, many of those songs became part of Deer Hunter's discography. When we love a piece of art, we desperately want more. We love sequels. Why not channel that desire into something productive? Think about your favorite work of art and your creative heroes. What's missing? What didn't they do? What could be improved? If they were still alive, what would they be doing now? If all your favorite creators got together and collaborated, what would they create with you leading the team? Go and do exactly that. The manifesto is this: draw the art you want to see, start the business you want to run, play the music you want to hear, write the books you want to read, create the products you want to use. Do the work you want to exist. We don't know where our ideas come from. What we do know is that they don't come from our laptops. John Cleese. Step away from the screen. My favorite cartoonist, Linda Berry, often says, in the digital age, don't forget to use your digits. Your hands are the original digital tools. Use them. Even though I love my computer, I think computers have robbed us of the feeling that we're actually making things. Instead, it feels like we're just typing and clicking a mouse. That's why so-called knowledge work feels so abstract. Artist Stanley Donwood, who created all the artwork for Radiohead's albums, says that computers separate us from what we create with a sheet of glass. You never really touch anything you make unless you print it, he says. Just watch someone at a computer. They're so still, so absorbed. You don't need a scientific study, though there are many, to tell you that sitting in front of a computer all day is killing you, and killing your work. We need to move, to feel like we're doing something with our bodies, not just our minds. Work that comes only from the mind isn't as good. Watch a great musician perform live. Watch a great leader give a speech. See what I mean? You need to find a way to put your body into action. Our nerves aren't a one-way street. Our body tells our brain as much as our brain tells our body. The amazing thing about creative work is the inertia of constant movement. If we start moving, strumming a guitar, playing with post-its in a meeting, kneading clay, that movement lights up our brain. And we start thinking. I've spent too long staring at the glowing rectangles of computer screens. We need to spend more time doing things in the real world. Planting a plant, walking the dogs, reading a paper book, going to the opera. Edward Tufte. When I was in creative writing workshops in college, everything had to be double-spaced, in Times New Roman. And my work was terrible. Writing stopped being fun. Poet K. Ryan says, before creative writing programs existed, workshops were usually in an old attic where you used saws, drills, and hammers to make things. Writer Brian Kiteley says he tries to make his workshops live up to their name, a big room full of tools and materials that force manual work. Creativity became fun again for me when I started using analog tools. My work even improved. For my first book, Newspaper Blackout, I tried to make the process as hands-on as possible. Every poem was made with a newspaper page and a permanent marker. The process activated almost all my senses: the feel of the newsprint in my hands, seeing words disappear under ink, the sound of the marker on paper, the smell. It was like magic. When I was making the poems, it didn't feel like work. It felt like play. The computer is great for editing ideas and preparing them for publication, but it's not very good at generating ideas. There are too many opportunities to hit delete. The computer turns us into prissy perfectionists. We start editing ideas before we even have them. Cartoonist Tom Gould says he stays away from the computer until he's thought through most of his strips, because once the computer gets involved, things are on an inevitable path to being finished. In my notebook, the possibilities are infinite. When it was time to structure Newspaper Blackout, I scanned all my paper pieces and printed them out. I covered my office walls with them and then arranged them into stacks by theme, then into one stack that determined the book's order. Finally, I copied that order into the computer. That's how I made the book. Hands first, then computer, hands again, and computer at the end. A loop between analog and digital. Now I try to do all my work that way. In my office I have 2 desks, one analog and one digital. The analog desk has nothing but pens, markers, pencils, paper, index cards, newspapers. No electronics allowed. That's where almost all my work starts, and the desk is covered with physical traces, clippings and leftovers from my process. Unlike hard drives, paper doesn't crash. My digital desk has my computer, monitor, scanner, and drawing tablet. That's where I edit and publish my work. Try it. If you have the space, set up 2 workstations, one digital, one analog. Keep electronics off the analog station. Take $100 and go to a stationery store. Buy paper, pens, colored post-its. When you return to your analog station, imagine it's arts and crafts time. Draw, cut, paste. Work standing up. Tape things to the wall and look for patterns. Spread everything out and sort it. Once your ideas are moving, go to your digital station and use the computer to execute and publish them. If you start losing inspiration, go back and play at your analog station. The work you do while procrastinating should be the work you do for the rest of your life. Jessica Hische. Practice productive procrastination. One thing I've learned in my short career is that side projects are the ones that really take off. By side projects I mean things you do just for fun, things that are just play. That's where the good stuff is, that's where the magic happens. I think it's good to have several projects going at once so you can bounce between them. When you get tired of one project, switch to another, and when that one wears you out, go back to the first. Practice productive procrastination. Give yourself time to be bored. Once, a coworker told me, "When I'm busy, I get stupid." Absolute truth. Creative people need time to sit around doing nothing. I have some of my best ideas when I'm bored, that's why I never take my shirts to the cleaners. I love ironing. It's so boring that good ideas always come. If you're stuck, wash the dishes. Take a long walk. Stare at a stain on the wall. As artist Myra Kalman says, avoiding work is the best way I concentrate. Give yourself time to hang out, to get lost. You never know where you might end up. Don't waste any part of yourself. If you have 2 or 3 true passions, don't think you have to choose one. Don't throw them away. Keep everything you're passionate about. I learned this from screenwriter Steve Tomlinson. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. Steve Jobs. Tomlinson suggests that if you're drawn to several things, keep investing time in them. Let them interact, let them talk to each other. Something will come of it. The truth is, you might forget 1 or 2 of your passions, but after a while you'll start to feel like something's missing. I spent my youth obsessed with writing songs and playing in bands, but then decided I should focus on writing, so I went half a decade without playing music. The emptiness grew. About a year ago, I started playing again. Now I feel whole. And the best part is that instead of taking away from my writing, music is making it better. I can feel my mental synapses firing with new connections. Almost half the people I work with are musicians, very common in Austin, Texas, and not all of them are creatives. Some are account executives, developers, and so on. But they all say the same thing: music feeds their work. It's also important to have a hobby, something creative that's just for you. You're not trying to make money or get famous with it. You do it because it makes you happy. A hobby gives but doesn't take. My art is for the world to see. My music is just for me and my friends. We get together every Sunday and make noise for a couple of hours. No pressure, no plans. It's regenerative. Almost like going to church. Don't let go of any part of yourself. Don't worry about having a single, unified vision of your work. Don't worry about unity. What unifies your work is the fact that it's yours. Someday, you'll look back and it will all make sense. At first, darkness is good. I get a lot of emails from young people asking, "What do I do to get discovered?" I sympathize. There's a kind of free fall after college. The classroom is a wonderful but artificial place. Professors are paid to pay attention to ideas, and your classmates pay to have someone pay attention to their ideas. You'll never again have such a captive audience. Soon you realize the world doesn't necessarily care what you think. It sounds harsh, but it's true. As writer Stephen Pressfield said, it's not that people are bad or mean, they're just busy. That's actually a good thing, because you only want attention when you're doing excellent work. When you're unknown, there's no pressure. You can do whatever you want. Experiment. Do things just for fun. When you're unknown, there's nothing distracting you from getting better. No public image to protect. No huge paycheck on the line. No shareholders. No emails from your agent. No strings. You'll never have that freedom again once people start paying attention, especially if they start paying you. Enjoy your obscurity while it lasts. Use it. The not-so-secret formula. If there were a secret formula to get you noticed, I'd give it to you. But I only know a not-so-secret formula. Do good work and share it. It's a 2-step job. Step 1, do good work, is incredibly hard. There are no shortcuts. You have to make things every day. Know that, for a good while, you're going to be bad. Fail. Get better. Step 2, share it, was very hard until about 10 years ago. Now it's very simple, upload your art to the internet. When I tell people that, they inevitably ask me, what's the secret of the internet? Step 1, observe something. Step 2, invite others to observe with you. You must observe the things nobody else sees. If everyone is observing apples, observe oranges. The more you share your passion, the closer people will feel to your work. Artists are not magicians. There's no punishment for revealing their tricks. Believe it or not, I take a lot of inspiration from people like Bob Ross or Martha Stewart. Do you remember Bob Ross? The PBS painter with the afro and the happy trees. He revealed his secrets. Martha Stewart teaches how to make your home and your life incredible. She reveals her secrets. People love it when you reveal your secrets. They pay you back by buying your work. When you open your creative process to the public and invite people in, you learn a lot. I've learned a lot from those who upload their poems to the newspaper blackout website. I've also found many things to steal. It benefits me as much as it benefits them. You don't upload your profile and your work to the internet only because you have something to say. You can do it to find something to say. The internet is much more than a place to publish your finished ideas. It can function as an incubator for ideas that aren't fully formed yet, a place to develop work you haven't even begun. Many artists worry that being online makes them work less, but I've realized that having an internet presence gives you a pretty strong motivational kick. Most websites and blogs display posts in reverse chronological order. Your latest post is the first thing visitors see, so you're only as good as your last post. This keeps you on edge, always thinking about what you'll post next. Having an empty container inspires us to fill it. Over the years, whenever I feel lost, I check my website and ask myself, what can I fill this space with? Learn to code. Learn how to make a website. Learn to blog. Learn to tweet. Discover social networks. Find people online who share your tastes and get in touch. Share things with them. You don't have to share everything. In fact, sometimes it's better not to. Show a bit of your work. Share a sketch or a fragment, a glimpse of your process. Think about what you can share that has value for others. Share a good tip, an interesting link. Mention a good book. If you worry about revealing your secrets, you can share your dots without connecting them. It's your finger that presses the publish button. You control how much and what you share. Don't worry about people stealing your ideas. If your ideas are good, you'll have to force them into people's minds. Howard Aiken. Build your own world. I grew up in the middle of a cornfield in southern Ohio. When I was a kid, all I wanted was to go somewhere where something was happening. Now I live in Austin, Texas. A place with a lot of vibe. Tons of artists and creatives everywhere. And you know what? I'd say that 90% of my mentors and peers don't live in Austin. They live everywhere. I know them through the internet. Which means that most of my thoughts and conversations related to art happen online. Instead of a geographic art scene, I have Twitter friends and Google Reader friends. You don't have to live anywhere other than where you are to connect with the people in the world you want to belong to. If you feel trapped, if you're very young, if you're broke, or if there's something tying you to a place, don't give up. There's a community of people you can connect with. Meanwhile, if the world you're in isn't your thing, start creating a new one. Now would be a good time to put on your headphones and turn up the Beach Boys song, In My Room. Surround yourself with books and objects you appreciate. Stick things on the wall. Create your own world. Franz Kafka wrote, "You don't need to leave the house. Sit at your desk and listen." No, don't listen. Just wait. Don't wait, stay still. And alone. The whole world will offer itself to you. And Kafka was born a century before the internet. All you need is a little space and a little time. Space to work and time to make something. A self-imposed solitude and a temporary confinement. If your situation at home doesn't allow that, sometimes you can find solitude outside, in the wild. When I was a kid, my mom always took me to the mall. Before she started shopping, she'd take me to the bookstore and buy me whatever book I wanted. We'd go into the stores and I'd sit and read while she tried on clothes. This went on for years. I read a lot of books. Now I have a car and a cell phone. I'm always connected, never alone, never confined. So I take the bus to work, even if it takes 20 minutes longer than driving. I go to a barbershop without wireless internet where there's always a line. At the airport, I keep my laptop closed. I go to bookstores to kill time. I always carry a book, a pen, and a notebook. And I always enjoy my solitude and my temporary confinement. Leave the house. Distance and difference are the secret tonic of creativity. When we get home, everything is the same. But something in our mind has changed, and that changes everything. Jonah Lehrer. Saying geography no longer rules isn't the same as saying location doesn't matter. The place we choose to live has a big impact on what we create. At some point, when you have to leave home. You can always come back, but you have to go, at least once. Your brain enters a comfort zone when it gets used to your surroundings. You need to disturb it. You need to spend time in other lands, with people who do things differently from what you're used to. Traveling makes the world look new, and when the world looks new, our brain works harder. The time I was lucky enough to spend in Italy and England when I was 19 and 20 changed my life. But it's important to point out that a different culture isn't only on the other side of the world or in another country. For some people who grew up with me, Texas might seem as strange as Mars. I've lived here a long time. Sometimes it does seem like Mars. If we know we should leave home, where should we go? How do we choose where to live? There are many factors in this equation, all depending on your tastes. Personally, I think bad weather inspires better art. You don't want to go out, so you stay in working. When I lived in Cleveland, I made huge progress in my work during the brutal winter months. Here in Texas, I do most of my work during the scorching summer. Winter in Cleveland and summer in Texas last almost the same, half a year. It also helps to live surrounded by interesting people, and not necessarily from your own field. Honestly, I feel a bit snobby when I only hang out with writers and artists, so I really enjoy the company of filmmakers, musicians, and technology geeks. And the food has to be good. You have to find a place that feeds you creatively, socially, spiritually, and literally. Even if you find a new home, you have to leave it from time to time. And at some point, you might need to move. The good news is that nowadays, many of your acquaintances are right where you left them, on the internet. Make friends, ignore enemies. I have only one reason to be here, to make friends. The golden rule is even more golden in our hyperconnected world. An important lesson you must learn: if you talk about someone on the internet, they'll find out sooner or later. Everyone has a Google alert with their name. The best way to beat your enemies on the internet? Ignore them. The best way to make friends? Say good things about them. I only know one rule: you've got to be kind. Kurt Vonnegut. Hang out with the talent. The only assholes in my circle of friends are people I can learn from. Questlove. Do you remember garbage in, garbage out? You're only as good as the people around you. In the digital world, this means following the best people. Those who are smarter and better than you, the ones doing exceptional work. Pay attention to what they talk about, what they do, the links that interest them. Harold Ramis, actor and director, known to most people of my generation for his role as Egon in Ghostbusters, once said, "Find the most talented person in the room and, if it isn't you, go stand next to them. Spend time with that person. Try to offer your help." Ramis was lucky. The most talented person in the room was his friend Bill Murray. If it ever turns out that you are the most talented person, you need to go somewhere else. Stop picking fights and go do something. You're going to find many things that seem stupid to you, and you'll feel the need to fix them. One night, while I was on my laptop, my wife yelled, "Stop picking fights on Twitter and go do something." And she was right. But anger is one of my favorite creative resources. Henry Rollins has said that he's angry and curious, and that's what allows him to stay in constant motion. Some mornings when I can't get out of bed, I stay there reading my emails and my Twitter timeline until my blood starts to boil, and I get fired up enough to get up. But instead of wasting my anger on complaints or tantrums, I channel it into my writing and drawings. So get angry. But don't open your mouth. Get to work. Complain about how bad people make software by making software. Andre Torres. Write letters. When I was younger, I wrote many fan letters and was lucky enough to get responses from some of my heroes. But I've realized the problem with fan letters is that there's too much pressure on the recipient to respond. Most of the time, when we write to our heroes, we're looking for a blessing, some kind of approval. But as my friend Hugh MacLeod says, the best way to get approval is not to need it. If you truly love someone's work, you don't need a response from them. especially if they've been underground for decades, so I recommend public fan mail. The internet is great for this. Write a blog post about the work of someone you admire and link directly to their website. Make something and dedicate it to your hero. Answer a question they asked, solve a problem they have, or improve their work and share it online. Maybe your hero will see your work, maybe not. Maybe they'll respond, maybe not. What matters is that you show your appreciation without expecting anything in return and find new inspiration. The only thing that needs validation is a parking ticket. Modern art equals, I could do that. Plus, yeah, but you didn't. Craig Damrauer. The problem with creative work, sometimes, when people finally understand the value of what you do, you're already A, bored to death, or B, actually dead. You can't go through life looking for external validation. Once your work is public, you have no control over people's reactions. Ironically, it often seems like really good work didn't take much effort. People say, "Why didn't I think of that?" They don't realize the years of effort and hard work behind a piece. No one will ever fully understand it. People will misunderstand you and your work. They'll even say insulting things. So get comfortable and get used to being misunderstood, undervalued, even ignored. The trick is to be too busy working to care. Keep a praise file. Life is a lonely business, often full of discouragement and rejection. Yes, the only thing that needs validation is a parking ticket, but having someone speak well of your work is a tremendous boost. Occasionally, I'm lucky enough that my work slips into internet networks and makes noise for a week or two. I get emails and tweets of support and admiration from people who've discovered my work. It's great, though it disorients me. It's a high point in my day. But what goes up must come down, and a few weeks later I'll have a bad day when I think I'm wasting my time and should quit everything. That's why every nice email I receive goes into a special folder. The horrible, discouraging emails go straight to the trash. When those bad days come and I need motivation, I open that folder and read a couple of emails. Then I go back to work. Try it. Instead of keeping a file of rejections, keep one of praise. Only use it occasionally, when you need encouragement. Don't get lost in past glory. Be regular and orderly in your life, so that you may be violent and original in your work. Gustave Flaubert. Take care of yourself. I'm a boring guy with a 9-to-5 job who lives in a quiet area with his wife and dog. That romantic image of the creative genius living on drugs and sleeping with half the creative scene doesn't exist. That's only for superhumans and those who want to die young. The truth is, it takes too much energy to be creative. You'll never have enough if you waste it on anything else. It's better to assume you'll live a long time. That's why Patti Smith tells young artists to go to the dentist. So eat well. Exercise. Walk. Get enough sleep. Neil Young sang, "It's better to burn out than to fade away." I think it's better to burn out slowly and watch your grandchildren grow up. Don't go into debt. Most people I know hate talking about money. Do yourself a favor. Learn everything you need to know about money as soon as possible. My grandfather used to tell my dad, "Son, it's not about the money you make, but the money you keep." Make a budget. Live within your means. Pack your lunch. Watch the pennies. Save as much as you can. Get the education you need in the cheapest way possible. The art of saving tries to say no to consumer culture. Saying no to fast food, to 40 peso coffees, and to that new computer when the one you have works perfectly. Don't quit your job. The truth is that even if you're lucky enough to make a living from art, it'll take a long time to get there. In the meantime, don't quit your job. A job gives you money, a connection to the world, and a routine. Freedom from financial stress also means freedom in your art. As photographer Bill Cunningham said, "If you don't take money, nobody can tell you what to do." A job puts you in the path of other people. Learn from them, steal from them. I've tried to work to learn things that would help me later. My job at a library taught me how to research. When I worked as a web designer, I learned how to build websites, and in my job as a copywriter, I learned how to sell things. The worst thing about a job is that it takes time, but at least it gives you a stable routine on which you can plan regular time for your creative goals. Establishing and maintaining a routine may be more important than having all the time in the world. Inertia kills creativity. You have to stay in motion. When you fall into a rut, you start to hate your work because you know that, for a good while, it's going to stink, at least until you get moving again. The solution is simple. Figure out what time you can steal from your routine and what time you must stay in it. Work every day, no matter what. No holidays, no sick days. Don't stop. You'll probably realize that the corollary of Parkinson's law is true. Work gets done in the time available. No one is saying it's going to be fun. Many times you'll feel like you're living a double life. Poet Philip Larkin said the best thing you can do is behave like a schizophrenic and use each personality as a refuge from the other. The trick is finding a job that pays and doesn't make you want to puke just thinking about it, and that leaves you enough energy to do things in your free time. Ideal jobs aren't easy to find, but they're out there. Get a calendar. Amassing a significant body of work or building a career is largely about accumulating effort over time. Writing 1 page a day may not seem like much, but do it for a year and you have 365 pages of a novel. Closing a deal with a client may seem like a small step, but closing 12 deals can get you a raise. A calendar helps you plan your work, set specific goals, and stay on track. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld has a calendar that helps him write 1 joke a day. He suggests getting a wall calendar that shows the whole year. Every day, after working, draw a big X in that day's box. Your goal each day, instead of working, is to draw an X. After a few days, you'll have a chain, says Seinfeld. You just need to keep going so the chain gets longer every day. You'll like seeing that chain, especially after a few weeks. Then your only job is not to break the chain. Get a calendar. Fill the spaces. Don't break the chain. Write a logbook. Just as you need a chart for future events, you need a record for past ones. A logbook isn't necessarily a diary. It's just a small notebook where you list the things you do each day. What project you worked on, where you ate, what movie you saw. It's much easier than keeping a detailed diary, but you'll be surprised how useful a logbook can be over the years. Small details will help you remember important events. In earlier times, logbooks were used by sailors to keep track of how far they had traveled. And that's exactly what you should do. Record how far your ship has traveled. If you ask yourself, what's the best thing that happened to you today? You actually trigger a happy retrospective in your mind that feeds on recent events you otherwise wouldn't remember. If you ask yourself, what happened today? You're likely to remember the worst thing because you had to deal with it, run somewhere, or argue with someone, and that will be what you remember. But if you ask what was best, it'll be a pleasant memory, an uncommon expression, or something particularly delicious. Nicholson Baker. She rescued me. I'd be playing in a buffet restaurant if it weren't for her. Well, I wouldn't even be playing in a buffet. I'd be washing dishes at the buffet. Tom Waits, talking about his wife and collaborator, Kathleen Brennan. Marry well. Who you marry will be the most important decision you make in your life. And by marry well, I don't only mean your life partner but the person who'll accompany you in business, in confidences, in special moments. Relationships are hard, but it takes a true champion, or championess, to marry someone obsessed with pursuing creativity. Many times you end up being a cook, motivational speaker, mom, editor, babysitter, all at once. A good partner keeps you grounded. Once a friend commented that living with an artist surely meant our house was very inspiring. My wife joked, "Oh yes. It's like living with Da Vinci. She's the best. Choose what to leave out." In this era of abundance and information overload, those who figure out what to leave out in order to focus on what truly matters will stand out. Nothing paralyzes more than the idea of unlimited possibilities. The idea of doing anything is absolutely terrifying. The best way to overcome creative block is to impose restrictions. It sounds contradictory, but when it comes to creative work, limitations mean freedom. Write a song during your lunch hour. Paint a picture with a single color. Start a business with no financial capital. Shoot a movie with your iPhone and a few friends. Build a machine with spare parts. Don't make excuses not to work. Make things with the time, space, and materials you have now. The right constraints can help you get more out of your own work. My favorite example? Dr. Seuss wrote The Cat in the Hat using only 236 different words, so his editor bet him he couldn't do it with only 50. Dr. Seuss won the bet with Green Eggs and Ham. Both are among the best-selling children's books of all time. Telling yourself you have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, all the colors on the palette, anything you need, just kills creativity. Jack White. Artist Saul Steinberg said, "What we respond to in any work of art is the artist's struggle with their limitations." Often, it's what an artist decides to leave out that makes their art interesting. What isn't shown versus what is. It's the same with people. What makes us interesting isn't just our experiences but what we haven't yet lived. The same is true when you create. You must embrace your limitations and move forward. In the end, creativity isn't only what we use, it's also what we choose not to use. Choose wisely. And have fun.